to make that decision.
Perfect. Well, that's good that at least being consistent with it.
With that in the back that's happened.
Yep. And so that's what we're going to kind of do today. We'll be outside. We'll check what that looks like. Obviously, I know we wanted to do like the front porch as well, so we'll check that as well.
One of the biggest things we've noticed here lately is if he hears another dog outside, it's all hands loose. He's barking all over the place and stuff like that.
Okay. Even like inside the house, he's going nuts.
Put him in a cage and we'll be doing something. Even at night, he'll hear something and he'll just wig out.
Perfect.
So I don't know what to do with that.
Yep. Those things were probably, a lot of times it's just a matter of levels that you're at, you know, going up on a higher level, giving that firm correction, because he does know he's not supposed to, and he's just kind of deciding to still do it. Okay. So, especially like with being at like the 40s and stuff like that, you know, like if you guys have been practicing this, like coming in the house and working on this and all that, you know, you might be able to get away with doing that 40 because it's more consistent with like, okay, every time mom comes home, I can't do this, right? Yeah. But something as big as kind of like us coming over, obviously he knows me, but it's still like coming in for the first time, you could tell he was kind of like wigged out a little bit. Yep. Yeah. And so that's something where it's like, I probably would have been pretty high, if not on high, just to kind of like nip that in the bud, you know?
We haven't been as consistent as I think we should be because we've just been, work's been crazy for both of us and all the things.
Yeah, and again, obviously like holidays and stuff. So, but yeah, again, it's something where it's quality's better than quantity, you know? So it's something where it's just like, especially with behavioral stuff, it's those things where it's just like, when the opportunity presents itself, take advantage of it. Other than that, you know, it's like you, especially, you know, again, being reactive to dogs and everything, you can't really like test that or like work on it until it presents itself, you know? So it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of have to let it happen and then take advantage of the opportunity when you can.
He has been really good in certain situations. We are very consistent because we don't eat at the table a lot
Yeah.
out here. So we either do bed stays.
He's great.
Perfect.
He's been doing really good with the down ones when we eat.
Yeah.
Outside of that, he kind of has free range.
Yeah.
We notice a lot when he does something, he wants to do it. So that differentiation is very difficult.
What is he doing that he wants to do?
Everything. Everything he's not allowed to. The running around the backyard barking at any reaction.
Gotcha.
Barking at people at the door. He is very vocal. Like you heard him come in. When we get home, that is on all the time.
Yep.
And he feels like he's allowed to do that. And it's very hard.
Yep.
I don't know if he knows it. I know. If he knows it and choosing to ignore it, or if we're just not correcting it consistently enough to teach him that you're not allowed to do that even though he is.
It's probably a little bit of both. You know, it's something where, you know, I'm sure he is doing it.
Technically I did.
Yeah.
Technically I did. He heard it.
You know, it's something where I'm sure it's a little bit of both in the sense that he obviously sees him doing it and he's not getting corrected for it, so Rocky's trying to get away and do it too, right? And then if we're not being consistent with giving the corrections, obviously, yes, he's taking advantage of that as well, right? Yeah. That is something where, again, it's totally up to you, but, you know, if that's something that you'd want to get like another collar for him just to work on the barking, like again, it's
talked about it. I have one on the Amazon list.
Yeah.
You know, because I know this can do too. So we kind of talked about it, even if it's not the formal training, just working on some of his smaller, really bad reactions.
Because though, like behavioral stuff, training, it takes instructions, it takes time to like incorporate and all that stuff, right? But behavioral stuff, again, just like him, we're not asking him to do anything other than stop doing the thing. Stop jumping, stop barking, right? So that is something that right away, you guys could just transfer that right away to him if you were to decide to get a collar. It's the exact same thing, right, as Rocky, where it's just like, no, and then correct, right? He doesn't need to do a bed stay, he doesn't need to like do all these things.
But it's just a behavior modification.
It's just,
Okay.
And so if that's something that is going to help you, a lot of times it's easier just to help him by correcting him, you know? But that's something that's totally up to you guys. Hi, buddy.
It's funny because he recognized you as soon as he smelled you. He was like, "Oh, I know this guy."
Yep.
This guy.
Yeah, he like hopped off and he's like, "Wait a second."
I know. I'm gonna get in trouble for this.
Rocky?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I mean, and even this looks great too. You know, him coming off, he's already so much more like low key.
Yes.
You know,
we
so
use a lot for the you're way too excited.
Bubba.
Yep.
You need to lower.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's where it's like it's 10, 15 minutes, you know, of just like usually at least 10, 15 minutes of just like letting him be on there, you know.
Yes, and that's what he does really well with it. In the mornings, I get up with him before work, and we do like this. This is his thing in the morning. If he starts getting jacked up, he knows he's going there. So this is his go-to is because a lot of times we don't have it around us, right? So we'll go outside, go to the bathroom in the morning. If I don't have it, he won't come inside to the command. It's not so I go inside, grab it, and he sees it, and he's like, okay.
Yep.
And then he'll come inside.
And that's we get a lot of that like questions all the time too with like, well, if the collar's off, he's much more likely to push it than with the collar's on. It's like, of course, right? That's why the collar is just on, right? And it's not that we're always giving corrections, but there's always that insurance of I have to listen because there's consequences, right? And so we get the same response when like he sees the remote and stuff. But again, it's not necessarily what I want. I just don't want it to be something. Know the rules. Don't do what you're not supposed to do. You know.
Yeah. The other funny part is he'll get on the bed, and he thinks we put him there.
Yeah.
That's a constant thing. He'll step on an accident, like, oh shit, did I get on here? Did they put me on here?
Do you typically like when you guys are hanging out here? Do you typically put him in a command, or you kind of just like hold him?
No. Come. No. Come.
So already, see how it's.
Because this is what he does when we're out here. This is the command he's always in.
Yep. And I know you were saying that he kind of likes to peek around and stuff.
Yeah.
But so this situation that just happened, right?
Yeah.
It's something where he had a little bit of that like jump or whatever, that response to it, but it was not nearly enough for get him to actually listen to you, right?
Okay.
He was still being stubborn. He's like, no, this is where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And what happened was you were just kind of like, all right, fine, he laid down, that's fine. And so you didn't commit to him actually following through with that command. So he knows that he's like, well, if I just plant down, Dad's probably just going to let me be fine, right?
Okay.
And so that situation is something where it's like, kind of what you guys were saying with like in the backyard yesterday, doing a couple high corrections until he listened. That's what you need to do. You need to commit to giving that command and following through until he listens so that you can end with that success. Because if he knows all he has to do is outlast that 40, 50 level correction, then that's fine. He can still do his own thing, right?
And we haven't been out front in a while since we put in the fence.
Yep.
Just because of the weather.
Because you haven't had to,
Exactly.
Yep. And that's what I mean. So so we'll see kind of what he does. Now, I definitely want to go
that's
up on.
More to her, even in the come. He's near me, but he's.
That's something where.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's where I start getting kind of confused.
Yep. It's something where like technically he's still in that bubble right now, but yes, he's absolutely more focused on you right now. So or whatever on the mat or whatever.
Yep.
So it's something where I would probably just check it, just take another step little back and see if he fixes himself.
No. Okay. No. Come.
Perfect. And that correction is perfect just because you didn't release him before you took that step back. You just moved back, and it is expected to him to do it. So that's
a
it.
Little tug, so he reminds me. See,
So
like,
that I would give a correction.
No. Come.
And see how there's like no response. So what are you at right now?
65.
So go up to a 90. Because he's going to keep pushing this.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell him no again.
No. Come. See that? We've been getting a lot of that too. You get higher. Today during the barking thing, we hit him. He turned around and like, not yelled, growled at it.
Yeah.
He's getting mad at it.
Yep. Tell him no.
Come.
Well, and it's because that's that abrasive where it's just like that's high enough where he's trying to care about it. You know, he's like, what the heck? You know, like so. It's something where listen to mom or dad when I'm telling you to do something. You don't have to worry about that correction.
Okay.
But the more you pushing it, you know, it's he's expecting that look these lower levels right now.
Yeah.
And so when he gets that higher, when he's like, shit, you know, like he's not ready for it.
Generally, we've been keeping it the 90s and the higher to if they start getting too close to each other in interaction. We've talked about that. We keep them separate. They don't interact with each other hardly at all because of that potential.
Yep.
Or if something like out back happens.
Yep.
But like I said, it's just so willy-nilly. It happens randomly that we don't have a chance to
Right.
react.
And that's the difficulty of like sometimes doing these in homes is like you come here and then the dog's on their best behavior because you know they see me or whatever, right? So it's something where it's just like, and the thing with that is, you know, it's not because I am like crazy good or whatever. It's just that when he was with me, there was such a consistency that it's just like, all right, regardless of where I see Seamus, I know if he says something that like I'm gonna have to listen, right?
See, that's what we have to get better.
And that's exactly it. So it's just like it's not that I'm better than you guys can be. It's just that I've just been more consistent with it, you know.
No,
So
agreed.
easily transferable. And the good thing with that is that you can see that it works, you know. So again, it's something where it's just like as long as that transfers to you guys, it'll be the same exact thing,
Okay.
you know.
That makes sense.
So we're just gonna kind of chill here. It's obviously pretty
Yeah, it's pretty
low key today,
low-key right now.
but that's all right. Because it's still something where it's just like this consistency of being able to like hold him and let him just do these smells and do all these things, right?
No.
Perfect. And getting him on for the small things. The more we're consistent with like these little things, because we can get very caught up on waiting for the dog till we start reinforcing more because we don't want him to react. But if he knows he can't get away with these little things, then he knows he's definitely not going to be able to push it with that big stuff,
Okay.
right?
That makes sense.
Doesn't mean he won't try, but it'll definitely be more understood that high corrections for all this little things of just leaving the bubble like he's not supposed to do, and we're getting on him for that, when stimulation is pretty low.
It's so hard to do a high correction.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
Yep.
The one day we were out here and somebody was walking by and he wigged out and I gave a high one and he turned and almost not bit me but like looked at me and growled.
Yeah.
Like I'm not okay with that.
Yep.
And it made me nervous about doing it at that level anymore.
Right. And that's
You know,
something where it's just like strap that muzzle on,
Okay.
you know, because it's something again. It's those situations where big mean Roddy, you know,
Yeah.
all he has to do is snarl and growl, and you're like, okay, you know, I won't do it, right? We
Yeah.
see that a lot with like trimming the nails, where it's like the dog snaps or snarls or whatever, and
Yeah.
we're just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Yep, we're not going to do that anymore. We're stopping,
Yeah.
and then they learn that that's all they have to do,
Down.
right?
Good.
And so in that exact situation, that's exactly what happened. You corrected him on high. He said, I don't like that. And you responded by going down,
Yeah.
right? So he got what he wanted. So
Like,
it's
chuck him in
something,
the house at that point.
yep.
That was-
So it's something where it's just like, strap that muzzle on if he gets like snappy like that, and you just have to outlast him. You're like, hey, listen, I don't care if you don't like it. Stop making the mistake, and we don't have to deal with this at all.
Okay.
You know?
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, now you're being good.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Because we're getting him on for the little stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So we'll just give him another minute here. Just kind of let him take it in.
And Bubba will go out. Bubba immediately goes out and has that investigate the fence from a dog I heard yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So when he does that, Rocky will follow him,
Mhm.
obviously. But then he thinks, I remember from watching him play with other dogs at your place,
Yeah.
that Bubba wants to play with him.
Yeah.
So that's a very hard one because it's how do you teach him that you can follow him but you can't play with him? Like, I don't know. Do you get what I'm trying to
So
say?
yeah. So
'Cause Bubba
the
will snap at him instantly.
yeah, and so it's not. I mean, there's two options, right? There is we can still do the avoidance of just anytime he's going up to Bubba, we're giving him correction, we're making him kind of move away or whatever, getting that distance. But it's also something where it's like, if Rocky can just respect Bubba's corrections in that situation, because it sounds like he's giving these corrections, but he's not like going at Rocky.
No,
Like he's
and
not trying to like
but
attack
Rocky
him.
does back away.
Yep.
But then he'll kind of inch in again, and then he'll back away again. He's not doing what he used to do, which is fully over the top.
Yep. So that's what we'll kind of see what that looks like in the back, but it's something where if Rocky can simply understand that there's sometimes interactions where it's like if he's just sniffing him when they first get out there and Bubba's fine with it, that's fine. But once Bubba goes and gives that correction, as long as Rocky can respond appropriately, perfect, right? If he comes back 5 minutes later and starts pushing him and Rocky gives another correction, then you can layer in a correction of just like kind of doubly down for Bubba of like, hey,
said no, and
you're not respecting that boundary. So now I'm gonna kind of layer it on to mark that when Bubba does that, you don't just keep going back to it. So why don't you give me the remote?
Yeah, I'll let you
And I'm just gonna.
tune him up
Yep. I'm just gonna kind of see. So I'm actually just gonna go up to a high.
this time. He actually.
Felt a little bit more dedicated.
Yeah.
So like, so obviously this interaction right now, this is totally fine, right? The coexisting, whatever. So
every
it's.
now and then Rocky will try and instigate a play.
Yep.
Bubba will correct him. Rocky will leave him alone.
Perfect. And that's it.
See right there.
Yep.
And
I
he
think-
also knows.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like
Oh, yeah,
even
before-
that little bit, right? Like all he had to do was kind of like side eye him, and Rocky's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
He knows, but
Yep.
sometimes he doesn't care.
Yep.
That's the problem.
And that's where we kind of double down, kind of reinforce that.
I know.
Yeah.
He just got to from a nap.
That
No,
I've
but he can leap over
seen,
that thing
you know.
without.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
thinking
definitely
about
like done like a leap, like a jump,
Uh-huh.
He'll
but not
he'll
at
hop
it or.
across the yard the one day, and we looked over and he could bounce over that without thinking.
Oh, easy.
So we've
You've
been
done
very
it
mindful of
outside?
that.
Yeah.
Cold.
Yeah, so like this is again totally fine. I'm waiting for him to make a new decision, right? I simply again told him, gave him that correction of don't do that one thing. Other than that, do whatever, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Usually
You have to let him kind of find those lines. Right?
when.
What are we barking at?
Yeah, like this is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. This is never how it is though.
Right.
But you know,
Yep.
he keeps looking back like.
And that first correction too, I think he wasn't really expecting obviously a high correction.
true, too.
So it's something where his stimulation was pretty low because the second he started vocalizing, I immediately like, I'm not waiting for him to rile up more. I'm not waiting for like Bubba to kind of feed into it and kind of like go together, right? It's just the second he even starts, I'm like, nope, we're gonna bring that down, right? Because there's no need to be vocalizing out here at any dogs. Yeah.
Vietnam. When he thinks he hears stuff, he likes to hide in that one. That's why it's shredded.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't care. We're getting rid of them.
Right. Yep. And this is also kind of like common too, like how he's kind of just like staring at us right now.
Yeah.
It's because he got that one high correction, and if he doesn't know exactly maybe why or what for or whatever, right? It's going to be somewhere he's obviously going to be checking in on us a lot more than you'll see, you know. But it's something where it's again, I'm not asking him to do something. I don't care. So after a while, he'll kind of just figure out that he can keep doing his thing, but you know,
when
it's.
that happens, it'll reinforce that.
Yep.
That's what you were talking about. Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and recall him right now?
Rocky, come.
No, I don't want him to go. If he goes inside, tell him no.
Rocky, no, come here. Come.
Perfect. Right?
Sit.
Because again, the criteria of the come is to be stabilized at your place, right? Even though the objective is eventually yes to go inside, I still want him to be with you,
That
right?
command still equals bubble.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly. Not just I want you to come inside, blow past me, and do your thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think that's probably where we've been the worst.
Yeah.
Is
Especially if
get
he's
that
like being
command.
muddy and stuff or whatever,
Well,
and you want to wipe him.
Yeah. Like he knows where he's supposed to be going.
Yeah.
So if he blows past us to that, we're like, oh
Sit.
yeah, that's semi-successful. We're good with that.
Exactly, right. And it's like you would rather him just walk inside than ignore you and be back here, right? So it's like, so it's very easy to kind of like let him do that, but it's just important to remember the criteria of what you're asking him to do.
Okay.
So that way he doesn't get confused of like, well, sometimes I can just blow right past Mom, you know, and then other times I get really like strict and I have to stay right here, right?
Yeah.
So just to, again, keep it consistent, have him just kind of hold it. Go ahead and release him.
Okay.
Perfect. Come on, Rook. Good job, buddy. You're like, okay, I'm done, you know.
That's good to show. It really
Yep.
does.
Yep.
And that
And
rarely happens, I
understandably.
don't think he would do anything.
Right.
But it's him.
Why
threatening
risk it?
me. Yeah.
Yep.
See, now he knows he's in trouble.
Yep. So go ahead.
Rocky, come.
Give him a second. A second.
No. Come.
I think he's getting
Tell him no.
confused to who has what.
No.
Yep.
Come. Come.
Perfect.
Good.
There you go.
See, I think
And
he's
it-
used
it's-
to seeing the remote
Yep.
and going to that person's.
And that's again, that's where it's like I don't necessarily I don't want the remote to be the marker
And I think
of
that's
like,
what-
all right, be on your best behavior because Mom's got the remote kind of thing, right? It's just like,
The calm,
Listen.
because that looks like confusion.
yep. And it is because we're also changing the routine a little bit,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So this is why I want to keep doing this so that he can have success. Once he has a couple repetitions of success, then we can be done.
Okay.
But I don't want to end it with just like, well, that sucked,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I want to end it with like,
No, I get
okay,
that.
now I got it, you
That
know?
makes sense.
So go ahead and release.
Okay.
Come here, Rocky. Good boy. Good job,
Yeah,
Bubba.
because toys get involved, which is why we got rid of them. So.
Mm-hmm.
I know you got it.
Yep.
I know you got it.
I'm not talking to you. Go ahead.
Rocky, come.
Perfect.
Good.
Now that's somewhere where like, because we've been doing a couple repetitions, I would try to give a pretty high reward there, you know, just so that he knows, like, got it.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been working at this whole time, you know.
So all of a sudden he's like, that's what you guys are trying to do? Okay,
Yep.
now I get it.
And this, again, is that point of, like, following through.
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted to.
Yep.
I saw.
Hey guys, we are going to be doing a little bit of ASMR with Bridget.
Hi guys, welcome into this episode of Dog Training ASMR. Here we are joined with Shira, and we're going to listen to her eat a treat. I hope you enjoy, and as always, get into your relaxing state of mind. And there you have it. I hope this helped you meditate throughout your day, your week, and your month. Thank you for joining. Hello, everybody. Today we are joined by the lovely Shira, and she comes to us from Turks and Caicos, and she's an extremely fearful pot cake dog. So essentially kind of like a street dog. If you've been following 6 or 7, it's from the same rescue. And she came in with her brother. She's just a puppy. So obviously kind of the same issues as 6 and 7 had with being a huge flight risk, just being super under-socialized and very fearful of everything, including loud noises, stairs, things that she hasn't really experienced before. And we thought we would talk about how to help a flight risk dog or how to minimize your issues with dogs that are super, super fearful. You'll definitely need a good leash. I would not recommend any harnesses for flight risk dogs as they can easily pop off, and either a martingale collar or a slip lead to walk them on, just so we can make sure they're nice and secure and sticking in our bubble. If something does startle them or they start to run out of our space, there's no hefty corrections that we give at this time. I just want her to get to the end of the leash and realize that she's unsuccessful with her fleeing. And this can kind of help calm her mind down a little bit too, because when they do flee, they're kind of in a panicked state and they're just trying to go. They're just trying to run. And as you know, it can be pretty dangerous when dogs are in that kind of mindset. So we're working through it over the next 4 weeks, and we'll kind of keep you updated on her progress there. Typically with dogs that are so fearful, everything is a new experience to them, which we have to empathize that things can be really scary and overwhelming. So we do generally want to take things slow and make things super clear. So obviously when dogs have major changes in their lives, they come over from an island, they come over from a different country, they have a move, they move from the country to the city. These big changes can be super overwhelming, and we want to help the dogs feel more secure and understand just very, very simple rules to create clarity so they can have an easier time adapting and building their confidence as they're doing so. So something that we'll do with these pot cake dogs is get them out to Home Depot, Proctor Park, a lot of places where there's going to be a lot of busyness and a lot of stimuli around them once we get them to a point where they can understand basic heel and leash walking, just so we can start to expose and expand their life and their training. So whether they live in an apartment or a house with a little bit more land, they have already gotten used to and done their homework with a lot going on around them. And typically these dogs will be adopted into a home where they could have other dogs, multiple family members. They could enjoy park trips, car traveling, things like that. And we want to make sure that the dog is well trained enough and well versed in all different kinds of situations so we can have more success with having them adapt to American lifestyles. So even something as simple as going up and down a flight of stairs is super scary to this dog, and we could spend weeks, trying to coax her up and down the stairs and really spend our time on it. But in reality, she has to go up and down the stairs every day for her training program. So we're going to work a little bit on that now. And these things like climbing on things, doing agility work, getting them up and down the ramp can also help build a dog's confidence with uncertain things. And for some reason, stairs are really scary for her, likely because she has had no prior experience to using her feet like that or going up kind of the steepness of a staircase. So let's go test it out. So first, at the top of the stairs here, not that she has a huge desire to do so. Oh, she just did. But to rush down, I'm going to kind of pull her back into my space. And I just want her to stick in my bubble so she's not flying down the stairs. We'll go down a couple of steps. Generally, down the stairs is much easier than up. And I'm okay if she gets a little ahead of me as she is yielding to the narrowness of the stairs. But I don't want her going much past. That's her brother. Okay. Okay. And like I said, up the stairs is a little harder for her. So we're just going to take it nice and slow and use gentle leash guidance. Good. And the second she moves into that leash pressure, it's being released. Good. Good girl. Come here. And now she's a stair master. She was. She's gaining her confidence, taking them steps. Go girl. Good. Next, we're kind of just walking in the hallway where her crate is at the end. And because she knows her crate is back there, she was really bad about like rushing ahead and trying to get back to that crate. So we're just gonna do some drills with that. We'll even open the crate door. So now that she knows that that's her safe place, she wants to go in, be done with training. But I'm just gonna work her a little bit more. Come on. Good. No, come on. Good. Come on. Come on, girl. Good. 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 Come on. Good girl. And I want her connection to me to be more important to her than trying to flee back into the crate. So I want her to realize there's nothing to be scared of. And I want to build her confidence around pushing her through when she tries to pancake here. So just slight leash pressure. Good job. Good. Good. This way, girl. So initially, I'm not going to add too many rules in. Like generally, we'll have dogs hold a threshold boundary on this doorway. But if I start to add too many expectations in with a dog that isn't proficient yet at leash walking, she could get a little bit confused and overwhelmed. So we just make it really clear. Just follow the leash pressure when you feel it. And as you can see, she's doing much better. Come on. Good. Good job. Good. Good job. Good. Oops. So a couple things that we did in those drills with walking down the stairs and some of the crate stuff is just use simple leash pressure to kind of guide and have a conversation with her about what direction we want her to go into, and then rewarding her when she makes the right choices that we like, so she can have a very clear understanding of what we're asking of her. A lot of people think that when their dogs pancake like that, or they're resistant to go a certain direction, that we should kind of yield and stop. But that's one of the worst things we can do, is show the dog that pancaking or that stopping, putting the brakes on, is actually effective. So we just kind of keep walking and use our momentum to get the dog walking with us. And she did really good. Yeah. If you're interested in a pot cake dog, adding one to your family, contact us and we'll put you in contact with the shelter. Happy training.
It doesn't work anymore because it's like that big bulky. There's some person they don't use VRWs. They're still using.
What's up, guys? It's Bridget with Miracle Canine Training, and today we're going to talk about how to have success after your board and train program. So Rudy has been with us for a month, learning some good foundational things. His issues were attacking the cats in the house and just some general reactivity that kind of led his owner to lose confidence in her ability to handle him. So we thought we'd go over, once the dog is in our facility, obviously we get a lot of success, but sometimes owners have concerns. How will they keep the success going at home? Because it's a different setting and owners are often still building their confidence. So one important thing to do when having your dog come home is kind of mimic the structure of our board and train program. So this could mean a little bit more crate time, working your dog through their commands initially. So kind of carving out some time every day to work with them, even if that was just a bed stay or applying some of the things they've learned in their board and train program. Get their brain moving a little bit, get your confidence with correcting them if they do make mistakes, and having them just be a more obedient member of your household. We also want owners to gain confidence working with the trainer and developing skills it takes to just start to hold them accountable for the behavioral issues that they have struggled with prior to training. So in Rudy's instance, we're going to talk about correcting for some of the barking, obviously working through some of the cat stuff, barking and lunging at people, and just getting his owner to be able to be the one to start to set the rules. So Rudy can transition how he looks at me and our staff here to looking at his owner in the same way, where he knows that she's going to hold him accountable and kind of take charge of his behavior at home. So it's really important to key in and start correcting your dog for the behaviors that you don't like at home to set them on a good path. We also want to take things slow as the dog is transitioning back home and not expect too much too quickly. Sometimes people will leave the board and train program and expect the dogs to be a perfect angel. But generally with us, the dog has achieved massive progress. It does take time for your dog to kind of see you in the same light as we spoke about before. So it's taking things slow and maybe working in your house first, taking baby steps, getting your dog to listen to the basic principles that you're applying before we would take them on an off-leash hike or do something insane, have them around guests. So allow your dog some time to adjust coming home and getting some good practice with their bed stay, their down stay, and kind of working on some of the behavioral issues that you've been struggling with. That will also say, like, rebuilding confidence with how you handle your dog is a big thing for owners. So as a company, we offer a ton of follow-up support, and the follow-up support is more geared toward the human. The board and train is for the dog, the month stay is for the dog, kind of get them going on the right path. We do all the heavy lifting, so when your dog gets home, you can not be a part of the teaching process, but more a part of holding them accountable and starting to open up your life with them. So rebuilding your own confidence in how you live and interact with your dog is super important. So we always suggest use your follow-up support because that's going to be an essential part of your dog's success. Not everything happens right away. Every dog is different. And while we'll see massive improvements, it sometimes needs a little bit more work for everybody to get on the same page. I'd also suggest focusing on one thing at a time. So sometimes we'll give clients homework of their first week home rather than focusing on all of the commands at once. Let's get them to do one or two of the commands really well in our house. So a bed stay, a down stay, and then just generally obedience around the house, being a well-behaved dog, and not needing ultimately to rely if the dog's barking out the window, not having to put them on the bed and just getting more comfortable with correcting the behaviors at hand, while also building on our skills in obedience in a separate session. I'd also recommend putting your dog in successful situations and not, like we talked about earlier, pushing them too much too fast. So I wouldn't have Uncle Joe come over and immediately put his face in my dog's face and start to do things that just aren't going to be successful for my dog ultimately. Part of success of training is knowing when to advocate for your dog and setting good boundaries for how your guests are interacting with them and kind of changing the way you live with them. A lot of dogs come from environments that are not necessarily disciplined or healthy for them, which is why we start seeing issues in the first place. So we can't expect the dog to come home and be absolutely perfect without us guiding and leading them in different situations that may come up. So advocation is huge for your dog. So try not to take them to dog parks or take them into situations where we're going to set them up to fail. During your dog's board and train program, obviously the training staff handles building relationship with the dog, holding the dog accountable, and people get worried where they fit in with that and how they're going to be able to do that. During your send home lesson, you're going to be completely instructed on A to Z with your dog. And that's why we recommend kind of taking things slow initially. So you're getting used to starting to enforce some of these rules before you go and do big stuff, like perhaps taking your dog out into a public space or a more crowded environment, and just allowing yourself to get comfortable using the remote, when to give the commands, and just generally working with your dogs. A lot of the times we'll see people come in and they're very eager to learn, and big question we always get is, how should my tone be? How should my demeanor be? And we want to kind of play it neutral with our dogs. We never want to get super emotional or shout or yell at them or use any kind of threat to them. We want to keep everything really copacetic and flowing in our training so our dog has something very dependable to rely on. We don't want to change things either. That's another thing that people will often try to either change the word of the command that we've done or kind of alter how we go through the correction. We just have to say, our dog has been here for a month. They know exactly the language we're speaking to them. And it's our job as a trainer with the owner to work together to find out how can we speak that same language and have you get on board with the training at home so we can ultimately have a lot of success. Your dog's not just successful in the home environment, but as you gain confidence, getting them out and about, if you so desire, taking them on hikes, taking them to stores, and kind of opening your dog's life up so much more than they had primarily before training. Let's talk about expectations with going home and learning some of the training as the owner. So generally, people will give us a list of things that they want their dog to do, and sometimes when we're looking at that list, we just see holes or areas of concern. Like some people are like, I want my dog to be around children all the time, or I want my dog to be able to say hi at my family parties. And sometimes these dogs are struggling with either severe or aggression or reactivity. We often don't want to put our dogs into the situations that we had before or prior to training, and we want to look at what is fair to the dog. Not to say that we can't move past the things that we're struggling with, but we have to really think, is it worth bringing my dog to a kid's birthday party where kids are going to be climbing them and pulling at them? And we have to kind of know our dog well enough to avoid situations that are just ultimately not going to be healthy for them. And it can be hard to do an analysis of when to push your dog versus what is no longer going to be effective. And oftentimes we're struggling with our dogs because of the bad situations that we're putting them in. So we can expect our dog to be obedient and be able to do commands, all that stuff, obviously, but also being more well-behaved in the house setting, outside of the house, and building a relationship with them. So particularly in Rudy's case, I wouldn't recommend that he was loose with the cats automatically on his first day home. That's going to take smaller sessions of him being successful around the cats, being supervised, and not just a free-for-all. Sometimes people do often think that the board and train is going to fix their dog and kind of have this unrealistic expectation that dogs are kind of like robots and they're programmed here and they're going to be set for life, where a lot of their success depends on how their owner lives and interacts with them. So like in Rudy's case, we wouldn't have him go right back into the house and be with the cats unsupervised for long periods of time. We'd go into that looking at how many sessions a day can we sit with Rudy and address the cat issue on its own without having to utilize solely obedience. And getting him a little bit more comfortable around the cats, getting the owner more comfortable with correcting him for some of the inappropriate behaviors he's displaying. One of the pillars of success is just kind of changing the way that you live with your dog. So try to go into adjusting with your dog back in your house as a transitional period for both you and the dog, and understand that it's going to take work and patience. We have an excellent follow-up support with our company, so always reach out to your trainer if anything goes awry or you have any other questions, so we can actively help you work with that. We're super excited for Rudy to go home tomorrow and start to get his owner on board with living a better life with her dog and addressing the cat issues. Hopefully we'll be able to provide some clips. So check out Rudy's progress.